North Street, or you going to move traffic on Ogden? Which one do you want us to count?
North Street, just travel straight to, those were added a couple of years ago. Remove those on North Street, let the ones on Ogden stay.
Okay.
So it doesn't slow traffic coming from Avenue C all the way through North.
Okay. Get it done.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried and so ordered. Item 7, council members, city treasurer Trask, discussion for possible action. Approved budget committee's recommendation of the American Rescue Plan expenditures to include, modify, or exclude the following. Ely Fire Department COVID supplies request in the amount of $331,571. Ely Fire Department volunteer EMS training conference for 5 volunteers in the amount of $6,580.80. Sentinel One antivirus software in the amount of $5 per computer monthly, approximately $1,500 annually. And hiring of Hinton Burdick CPAs and advisors at a consultation rate up to $250 hourly, or a retainer to be determined by advisement on American Rescue Plan expenditures and reporting. So these are items that came before the committee. They vetted them to some extent, and put them on the agenda for the council's approval, recommendation, or change, or however the council would like to do.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a disclosure. I was a past member of the fire department. I believe I know I have some questions between the fire chief and the city treasurer on this, but I believe the questions I'm asking are not only satisfy my own curiosity, but possibly help the citizens of the city. So once again, I disclose I was a past member of the fire department. And when it comes to a vote, it just really I'm struggling with this right here. I talked with the attorney, whether or not I should vote or not, but I want to make that disclosure. But I do have questions for those two if they come to this podium together.
Okay.
See, look, we'll start off with that EMS training. It says 6 volunteers, and it's true that your paid staff are on the volunteer list, correct?
Yeah, they're on the roster.
Okay. So I talked briefly, I texted the treasurer earlier, I think it was yesterday. So the fire training that I used to attend, that's just a hands-on, you watch a bunch of slides and communicate with other people. But EMS could be an actual training to benefit their position, correct?
Yeah, but the people signed up for this one that's on this course is all the volunteers. It's none of the career staff.
Okay, perfect, that took care of that question right there. Okay, now let's get down into your COVID supply request.
Okay.
The 4th line from the bottom, the striker power load
Okay.
for $46,621. The quote is for 2, but the quantity is 1. So I'm confused. You want 1?
The power load is 1 and the gurney is 2. So the power load is a system that's in the back of the ambulance that lifts it up and puts it in.
Right.
And the gurney
Yeah.
is.
Okay, so the price $46,621 overstated by $23,310. It's on the second or third page.
That might be,
It says 2 power loads for $46,620 for 2 of them.
right, so that's just a typo on my end on this list on the front.
So
So
it needs to
1, so that could be a 2, no, 1 and 2. Following the quote.
okay,
The
so,
quote has 2 if you look on the quote.
yeah, that's what I see, that's what I was.
Yeah.
Two power load units, or 1 unit and 2 gurneys.
2 units, 2 gurneys. So where we're at right now is, if you look at the warranty on those, it's 3 years on the, I don't know how they put it, bumper to bumper or whatever, end to end, or 3 years on the X-frame and 2 years on the other parts. So where we're at now is that our original one, as you recall, was put in the first ambulance that we ever purchased from the city of Las Vegas. That has since been pulled out, put into another ambulance, and moved around. It's, I don't know, do you remember what year that ambulance was purchased? It's been 6, 7 years now we've been running the ambulance service. So it's completely out of any warranty work whatsoever on it, on that unit, the power load and the gurney. The other one we got that's in Rescue 6, which is the ambulance that belongs to White Pine County, that also has an old don't have the bariatric gurney like our new ones do. And just the other day, we had a call, and that gurney would not lift the patient. We all had to lift to hoist it up. The new ones we got are the bariatric ones that'll lift up to a 700-pound patient.
Okay, so in Rescue 6, that's a city-owned gurney?
No, that's county.
So, okay.
Yep.
Okay, so what about installation?
However, with that contract, we're responsible for all maintenance and repairs of an ambulance.
So where's the installation charge to have those, do they come out?
There really is no installation charge, because now everything is done on them, so it's a matter of, we can do them ourselves, we unbolt them from the floor, take it out, bolt the new one in, all the wiring's all ran, everything's in them already.
Okay, flipping to the next page, I understand the PPE, personal protective equipment, 25 turnout, things, gloves and all that. And I know they have, one, but not a timing on them, or you know, and then, what's that?
Lifespan.
Well, that, we know where they are. So what is, the very first one, mobile rims
The
communication?
mobile room communications for the ambulances, this one I actually want to try and get a couple more updated quotes, because when we put this together, I was pushed with the time frame, trying to have these things together by the first meeting in October. So if you look on that, page that I just supplied to you guys today, actually.
The Rocky Mountain Bridge.
So yeah, the Rocky Mountain one, that's the updated quote, that's today's date with all the updated information on it. The one that's from RIMS actually is the older quote. The 11,000 that's on top of that, the dispatch has already got that software in there, so that price come off altogether. So that was the question I had tonight, is if we should just table that item altogether until I get all the accurate information and come back, or how
The
would we
quotes
go?
would still be good in 2 weeks. I think it would be, rather than doing this complicated math in the meeting, would
Right.
probably be best to have that just.
So I mean, we know for sure that portion is gonna come off, so,
Sure.
you know, when you add it all together, it's at like 52, but I know like that 11 is gonna come off. And then my initial thing is like, also like I talked with Jennifer, what I wanna do is when we do these, so these are gonna be the systems that'll mount in the ambulance, possibly when it was originally quoted this, one in my truck, one in probably engine one to start with. I would just go with 3. So right now I have the quote listed for 6 if we need it. So to have right now when dispatch sends out our information to their new paging, and Scott's getting ready to, they're redoing their whole dispatch office here, end of the month, I believe, he did, they're moving and getting ready to remodel everything. So come January, they're gonna have all the new system up and running. What this will do is give us the capabilities in the ambulance when they have updated information, they'll send it out to us, it'll come right across on the screen versus going sensitive information over the radio, and then you got everybody out in scanner land listening to stuff, so. That's basically what the system is.
Okay, and over the, Patty sent out some stuff, you know, information for tonight too. The one page that's not here in front of me, there was a comment made by the vendor, and let me see if I can find that one thing. It was, I think it was a quote dated in 2019.
Yeah, that's the one for RIMS, that's the one I said that's got that 11,000 on it, that's this one right here. And that's the one I said I would get
Okay,
I'm waiting to get an updated quote on it, because we had looked at this system prior, and this was back when, prior to Scott getting the RIM system put into the station, because we were looking at some grant funding for it, and that's where that quote is from. So I'm waiting to get an updated pricing on everything.
so that's not included in this list here.
Well, it is, but this 11,000 on it will come off. This page is all, those 3 that you got today are all included in that 50,000. So the one that's the 21,720, the one from Rocky Mountain Emergency Vehicles, that is 28,046, and the other one from Verizon, and that was the other question, you know, I was gonna have some more discussion with Jeanette. The 2879 a year, that's for 6 sets of the basically the Verizon cards, which that would cut in half if we did initially with 3. And these are things I talked about that we're gonna have to look at budgeting going forward if we do some of these projects, so.
That was my question on this, it's $2,900 a year after
Right.
this is done. But once again, we had this discussion kind of over that little cardiac deal,
Mhm.
that if you put down 6, Where did you come up with 3 in the ambulances, 1 in?
3 ambulances, the command vehicle, ladder 1, and engine 1.
So why would you want to reduce that to 3 if we get this?
Because we want to make sure, rather than go with all of them, we want to make sure everything's going to work according to the way it's looking, because, you know, you start stuff, and if it's not going to work properly,
And you're stuck.
right, then you're stuck with 6 of them. And if we can go in with half, or even if we go in with just 1 to start with, and make sure it's going to do all the stuff.
I don't know if it's going to work for you, and I'm not familiar with it, like Jim is as well, but the next question is, we could actually use the ARP money until December 2024 for that renewal, then after that, we have to budget for it. So I think, you know, I totally support all this, something that I really, that and childcare and the food banks and stuff, I really support these, so if you don't mind tabling it for 2 weeks, because you want to give us more accurate numbers, I'm okay.
Right, and I can do that, like I say, you know, I'm kind of really up in the air, not really knowing all the details and everything on this ARP money. I would, you know, to come with a list and get a wish list of things we could do that can better our department. And I'm thinking of things that we could do that would be real cost prohibitive for us to try and do if we had to budget for it and spend it out of the general fund. And if it's something we can do here that's not gonna have a huge ongoing expense, those are items I'm kind of looking at trying to,
Well, I think
get
it's
those down.
really I commend you for that.
I just got a couple more questions.
Yeah.
One thing on that quote that you're gonna get it updated.
Right.
Dated April 23rd, 2019. Why haven't the fire department been trying to budget this in capital?
Well, because part of the thing, when it went in, we were looking at it, and I just told them, I said, at a total price of $50,000, I says, I ain't gonna fit that into my regular budget with everything else and all the cuts we got, and, you know, the things we're doing going forward. That's just something that's not real realistic that we're gonna put in the general fund budget.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be the general fund, it'd be capital.
Well, yeah, it'd be
So that's what we're looking at.
Well, and that's what we did last year, we had the truck, and this year, would I want this in capital, or would I want the extrication equipment that we're using regular? And that's why I went with that $60,000 in the capital in my budget this year.
And I'm just saying, when I realized you weren't the chief back in 2019, it's like all of a sudden, boom, here's a bunch of money, hey, let's go spend it, which I have no problem, as long as it's being spent wisely. So that's just a question I had on that is, so then, moving down, I understand the narcotics safe, I understand the PBs what number is it here, the 25, somewhere I seen it there, down there, additional, what the heck was it, the multi-mission field coats and pants for 25 of them. That one, between them, it's, God, I seen it here somewhere, it's like pants you wear on car wrecks or whatever.
Oh, that's PPE that's on the Alan Curtis quote?
Yeah. So that's included into the 25 sets? Is it in there?
I looked at some of these quotes, I'm trying to go back and remember.
Yeah, it's on the Allen Curtis report.
So, yeah, it's those are so there's 20, let's see, there's 6. Okay, quantity, okay, yeah, 20, those are the extrication, so nowadays in the summertime, trying to do extrication in full firefighter PPE with all the liners and stuff in. These are basically the extrication suits that basically look like the shell of your jacket, you know, or sometimes we pull the liners out and just work with the shell of the jacket.
The only problem I have with that, 36 years in the department, if we had 6 guys on a wreck, we'd be lucky.
Right.
And you wanna get 25 of these here, I might make a recommendation, because you're having a lot of the guys pick their turn-ups at the fire station. 3, small, whatever you got, you know.
Yeah,
I just think,
I'm free to go with whatever you guys suggest.
I think that's a little, you know, it's only $18,000, but I think you can have those there sitting around, nobody's gonna wear them. Because you still, when you go on a wreck, you know, as well as I do, you have to have somebody man on the road, depending on what the situation is, they have to wear the PPE firefighting.
Right.
So, okay, that's my comment on that.
It'd be something that we'd have to leave on the apparatus, basically, and buy a variety of sizes and basically leave it on the thing where they, where they're looking at everybody, have it just issued to
They
them,
have to
so.
dress down, going out there,
Yeah.
get something for, some of your firemen, and some for Peacock, there's definitely gonna be a difference in size.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, the
If
Harrison
they make
radio,
that.
the Harrison radio replacement communications for 22,000.
Those are handheld radios, and those are the ones, so the state is revamping all of their 800 megahertz systems. So right now, this is where we're running into an issue, is there's no more room on the state system to even add any radios at this time. So like the radio in the back of Rescue 6, we're having to call on our cell phone right now because the radio don't function and there's no room to put any more. These ones will be handheld radios that are, so these will be mobile radios that are handheld, that'll have the 800 and the other, so we could talk to the hospital from, say, inside the Hotel Nevada if we're working on a call versus having to run out to the ambulance or run out to the thing. So they're just the new radios that are updated, that are dual band, that are the 800 megahertz, and also be able to still talk with the sheriff's office and we can talk to the hospital. They're two total different spectrum of radio transmission.
Okay, I agree with what Ed, I like to see something a little harder prices before we vote on it. You know, what's 2 weeks? We got 2 years to spend it all. So that's my comment, and then I like to have, so the HR director can explain to the rest of the council here, and my comment about the paid staff going on some of this training, if it's required, they get paid. I'd like to have her explain how that works versus the volunteer, so everybody's aware when I question some of this, why I'm questioning. I'm not questioning the integrity of them going, it's the financial cost that, when I'm trying to say, when I asked about these 6 people, it was, if they were gonna be our paid staff, let's put that wage in this money right here. That's what I was gonna try to shoot for.
Okay, so according to the FSLA laws, if a firefighter does anything, okay, any required training, they have to be paid. It's paid time. They're trying to do the training, they're on the clock. If they are doing anything, that's why they can't be technically volunteers at their own fire department, because if they go on a run with the volunteers, they're going as one of our firemen because it's part of their normal duties. So if it's anything that they're doing in the line of, that lines up with what they do on a day-to-day basis, that's their duties, we have to pay them. We're required to pay them.
Yeah, the Fair Labor Standards Act is very specific that you cannot volunteer for an organization in which you draw a wage from in the same capacity. So I cannot, or say, my paid staff cannot show up and say, oh, I'm just here as a volunteer. It don't work that way. If they wanted to go volunteer up in Ruth Fire Department, they can go volunteer in Ruth because they don't work for basically the town of Ruth, they work for the city of Ely. So the way the Fair Labor Standards Act is very specific, you cannot volunteer for an entity in which you're getting paid for. Also on the training side of it, any of the training they attend, that's part of their job, if it's, mandatory that we send them, or if they want to go to trainings. So here's the flip side of it, if they want to go to trainings, they've got to come to me and say, we'd like to go to these trainings, and then I got to go and make sure if it's in the budget, because we're going to be paying overtime, we're going to be paying the, we had this discussion in budget hearing, we'd be paying the overtime, we're going to be paying the cost of the training, the per diem, the travel, all of that stuff. So, a lot of it, if it don't get approved through me to go to that training, otherwise they can just run rampant and go to training after training and just keep submitting invoices and want to get paid for it. We'd be broke in no time doing that.
Just following up and finishing off on this. For example, he had 4 of his staff go to fire training in Reno, and 1 volunteer went from the department.
I didn't have them go.
They attended. But see, this is, they took vacation or they didn't want to get the same thing, Again, I think that's a little gray with the Fair Labor Standards Act. I think they're gonna come back and probably, if somebody whines about it, I think we better be ready, that's all I'm saying on that. So it's awful important, and Pat watches his budget good, and the treasurer, I want the rest of the council to know, when we start sending these guys, approving them to go someplace, we think it's good, we better make sure it's in the budget, which I'm sure they're gonna do that, but it's not like it used to be. It's a really technical.
And I definitely don't want to deter none of them if they want to go to training for their own knowledge. I don't want to deter them from not going, and, but I'm telling you, if you want to go on your own time, you're more than willing to. It's not the budget. I'm not requiring you to go. I mean, you know, it's kind of on them, and it's like, I don't know, I guess it'd be, get into eventually be a legal question, but I don't wanna hamstring this either and get to the point that you guys absolutely cannot go to any other fire training unless it's approved and you're getting paid for it either, so I mean, there's kind of a trade-off on that.
I think it becomes a good budgeting issue. I asked the HR director, what was approved in your budget? I mean, it's hard to do that, you know, for example, your paramedic, he needs to keep his stuff up. He's, I know in all that discussion we had a year and a half ago, he said, most of us do it on our own. But now, that might be switching around.
Right.
Anyway,
When you bring this item back, could I also ask that we break out what is a one-time expense and what could be a recurring expense?
Okay, yeah, so like most part, so like on page one, all the way down to the bottom 4 items, well, I mean, all the way down, those are gonna be a one-time expense. For most of these are supplies that supplies that we're able to use, that we use on a daily basis with the ambulance, that don't got expiration dates, that we're not gonna have them go bad, that frees up the money out of the general fund from doing it.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, please.
so I'd like to say that, of course, Jim, I appreciate your expertise, and Pat, I just want you to know that it's very exciting for me, especially living in a big city all my life, that we have the opportunity to outfit our fire department, because we're in the middle of nowhere, and I know that you guys are in impossible situations sometimes. So I'm very glad that we'll be able to provide most of these funds, if not all of these funds, to make sure that our firemen and paramedics are safe in what they're doing, and that they have the proper equipment to continue to save lives. Because when you're out in the middle of nowhere, I need you to have everything that you need.
Right.
So I think sometimes we need to be able to say, it's exciting to be able to spend money in this way, because it's benefiting anyone that you come in contact with. So I'm glad we're going to be able to do this. And I also remember that when we were talking in the committee, it's important, time is of the essence for some of the things that he needs, because he has to order some things that are 2 years out.
yeah, like, on the other thing we talked about is the ambulance, some of this stuff's a 2-year wait, you know, and some of these supplies we deal with on a daily basis, or we order out of stock, and they're not just us, it's across the country.
And just
So-
to clarify, we have to have the funds committed by 2024. We don't have to have them all spent by
Be
the
committed, right?
end of
That's correct.
2024. There's about 2 years after that.
I think it's 2 years, 2026 is when it's
Correct,
done.
right.
Yeah. One question before, because going back and forth on this, this training is November.
Mhm.
I think we should move on that part of it tonight, because you can get it registered, I don't know what, if you have registration, whatever, but you're perfectly all right with coming back with 331.
Yeah,
Okay, and just give us a couple things on that one.
I can come back on the other stuff. But
Well, you know, as far as I'm concerned, and yeah, just keep going to the next item, let's just find out.
So we've got the volunteer training, which Councilman Allworth had a question on. Are there any other questions or concerns on that? There's the antivirus software for all city computers.
Yes.
Which is okay.
Hiring of, and this was something that was discussed in the last meeting, was the hiring of Hinton Burdick CPAs as advisors, so that we can run all of these asks and things through them to make sure that we've got an extra set of eyes to making sure that we're meeting the ARPA requirements. And I think this is just a good housekeeping item. It was something recommended by our treasurer.
what's the treasurer's recommendation, option 1, 2, or 3?
We talked about doing like not to exceed and then coming back if we needed more.
Because I think in the way it's worded up to $250, you get all 3 of those people at one time, it's $570 an hour.
Right, so if we dedicated like 10,
I thought we said 5,000.
5,000, yeah.
Yeah, I would recommend maybe setting a price and seeing, because we can always come back and ask for more if it's been beneficial. Because the other thing is, not only helping us make sure that we're spending it on the correct stuff, we also have reporting runs that we do that they will help us on.
So you just need to change the wording, hire them up to $5,000, throw out the hourly rate.
That's what I would go with, yes.
I got an issue with this, and this is a CPA firm. If you read me, hi Jeanette, I want you to read me the second sentence in that correspondence.
Starting with the pending.
Depending on the consultant's needs, are you?
What does that say? And you guys are going to be telling us how to spend our money? That's the worst. You can't read that and make sense out of it.
Did you get an A
It
in
was
English?
probably,
Let's not crucify someone over anything.
yeah, I was
No, I
gonna
mean, it
say,
is.
I
These
think
are
it was probably
professional
on the
firms.
road trying to multitask and knowing McKay.
Hey, whoever wrote that to you, I hope he's not doing the ARPA research. Because that is the worst written sentence I think I've ever seen.
He said you've been really busy yet.
Oh, yeah.
And you're hired, I need you to abstain.
Yeah.
Well,
That really, when I see something like that, I start thinking, the ones that are really tired when they tell us to spend $250,000, they're not on the hook we are. That's my point.
I have all the confidence in the world in it, so.
I don't have as much confidence either. Anyway.
So if there are no questions, if there are no further questions on the rest of that stuff, I would entertain a motion for tabling the first item and approving with the, approving the other items with the provision of not to exceed $5,000 on the CPA agreement. Is that a,
Yeah, that's fine with
Okay.
me. No,
Motion from Councilman Allworth, do I have a second?
Once again, make sure the record shows that I disclosed that I was a past member of the fire department.
Yes. So moved.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
You got it.
Second from Councilman Schmerz. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Attorney, can I break out, can I vote yes on part and no on that CPA? Or is it one motion?
I believe they're separate items within this item.
Would you like us to consider, we can consider each item separately. if you'd like.
Okay,
Yeah.
I know, but we said
The
motion
language
for both of them.
Right, the language of the item is to include, modify, or exclude each of the following sub-items.
But the,
I believe.
you want to consider a vote on each single
He
item?
read the motion.
Okay, and you're wanting to propose one?
Well, no, I'd like to have him separate.
Can we vote on every single
64, 80,
proposal?
and then the
There's a
5,000.
motion on the table.
There's a motion and a second on the table. I think you either have to decide to vote for it or not.
And you're buying the pizza tonight.
Or you're buying the pizza tonight, Kurt.
Okay, well,
I'll call for the vote if there's no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm gonna have to vote for it because I really feel strongly about the volunteers, but I'm not a bit happy with that piece of correspondence coming from the company.
So noted. Item 8, council members, city clerk, lead discussion for possible action, approval of contract between City of Ely and WestNet Nevada LLC, Inc. for wireless area network project to serve the City of Ely's facilities. And we do have one of the representatives here.
Yes, Wilson is here. This contract has just been updated to reflect the higher bandwidth that was requested by the council when the wireless area network was approved.
If there are no questions of Wilson, we will entertain a motion.
Yeah, essentially, I'm just here, just see if you have any
Stand
questions.
closer to the microphone so we'll come
I'm just here to make sure that all the questions were answered, and all of it was approved last time I was here. But I just want to make sure that, if there is any questions or concerns regarding the contract, I'm here to answer.
I just have a question since I'm off the budget committee. We asked for the fiber to go toward the wastewater treatment plant. Is that in this?
It's not, a quote was provided, and it's still what Wilson stated in the meeting, it's $100,000, $75,000 to get the cable out there, and then $25,000 to do the spurs to each building.
But all that permitting.
So the budget committee looked at that quote, and they wanted more of a breakdown of exactly what was in that $100,000, and so.
There was some question if that
Yeah,
included things
there
like
was some
patching the street
questions,
back.
and Wilson's team is working on that.
Okay, thank you.
And for that part, it is going to take a little bit more time, just because it is going to take about $100,000 just to get it there. But just getting cable to that location is not gonna be lit.